What's going on, guys? John Santos, and today I'm here with the one and only John Klein. We got my man Josh, Rich with Hustle Ninjas. Over the last few days, we've had an opportunity to walk the floor at Co-Create. We created there and we met each other, and there's so much value in this room that I want to take a moment to not just talk about brand building, but to really go into ad strategy. You know, how should you position your brand for marketing, paid ads? We're also going to be sharing organic content strategies to help grow your organic content from 0 views to a couple hundred, if not thousands or millions, if you apply some of these tips. And we got the man Rich here, who's going to be diving into design and how you should think about your market and apparel before you even start making a product. So if you're a new viewer to this channel, I hope you guys enjoy this interview, and let's kick it off.
Let's do it.
Let's get it. All right, cool, bro. We made it out here to Co-Create. What are you guys thinking so far of the event, and what is one thing, share one takeaway that you've had so far?
All right.
Let's start over here.
I'll go first. Been learning a lot, been talking to a lot of people, hearing a lot of different ideas, some strategies that I've never heard before, meeting different mentors and doing some different business deals that never would have potentially thought. I was like thinking, oh, I wonder how this will go, and it's beat my expectations.
What about you?
No, for me, I think one of it, kind of the problems that a lot of merchants are facing. So they're either super heavy on Amazon and not heavy on Shopify, or they're super heavy on Shopify but not heavy on Amazon. So it's like so weird that I wouldn't really have thought that, you know, there is that weird dichotomy between those two.
Yeah, for me, it's, you know, everyone dreams of that laptop lifestyle, but there's only so much you can do. I can't really connect with you or you the same, like, through a laptop, but meeting you guys in person, you know, that's a different type of inspiration. Even like sourcing products. You can't even really touch products like, you know, on the internet. But like whenever you meet someone here, that trust factor is just so much higher.
It is, and I think the quality of products, you can actually visualize why that price point is higher, right? So sometimes you look at a product, you're like, wait, $35 on Alibaba, right? You're like, that's a ripoff, but then you look at it, you're like, actually, this is pretty clean. And like, I've always found that when sourcing with Alibaba, that's kind of what happens. Like, you have an expectation of the product that's going to be lower quality, and then when you get it, you're like, is this real? Like, that's what I always feel when it comes to some manufacturers anyways. So you guys are in marketing, right? So you do marketing, ads. Tell us a little bit about what you do, and one piece of advice that starting brands can implement to start making more money.
So typically we are master SWAT teams of doing creatives, landing pages, and funnels. It's all about funnels, going all the way down. The end North Star goal is 100% of the people that see an ad will click on it. And then 100% of the people that go on the landing page will buy, because the landing page is so good, it feels like magic. So something I would suggest to new brands starting out is don't try to reinvent the wheel. The magic is kind of already there. Go out, look, see what catches your eyes in your industry, copyright it, and test. And it's all about testing. One ad is not going to, it may work really well, then it stops working. You always got to test them. Always got to test them.
And then yesterday we were talking about like your pyramid, or like your trifecta. Tell us about the trifecta of what brands, like how does that relate to the everyday brand owner?
Yeah, I mean, I think the everyday brand owner, they're so focused on, you know, just taking a photo of a hat in a really cool spot, but they're not really thinking of like, okay, what's the messaging here? Okay, what's the offer here? But the trifecta that I've seen work really well with brands doing well over, you know, $5 million a year is they have really good ad creatives, they have really good media buying, so they know their unit economics so well. So it's not even just media buying, it's like, okay, my landed cost of goods is here, so my cost of acquisition is here, or maybe this person will purchase 3 more times in the next 6 months, so I know that I can be less profitable within the first purchase. So you can just scale up as much as you can. So that's the profit first media buying. And then on the landing pages, so many people like sleep on landing pages so much. They just want to make really cool ad creatives and have all the cool fonts and all those things. But a landing page should really speak to the end consumer of, okay, how many people have bought this? And you need to answer like, is this a scam? Will this ship fast? You know, who's bought it? Okay, how would this look on me? I'm, you know, let's say this model is 6'1", but I'm 5'6". Like, how would this look on me? So you need to like really try to think of all of the rebuttals that someone would make before they purchase and put that all over the landing page. And not so many people, not so many brand owners specifically think about those things.
Okay, so then to expand on that a little bit, what is a brand that you think has incredible ad creative and a landing page to match? Something that you guys have ever worked on or you've seen and you're like, this is what we're trying to go for.
Oh man, I mean, one of the brands that I helped out early in kind of my career it was this beauty tech device. It was very performative. I mean, like it was a dermaplaning device. And what we did was we really like researched the customer so much. We did like post-purchase surveys, figured out who they were. You know, we got like some weird wine drunk like answers, but we found out that, you know, they weren't really in it for the peach fuzz removal. So it's a dermaplaning device. They were in it to look better. So we created these whole sets of ads to say, you know, women over 50, if you want to look better, you need to do these sets of things. And then on the landing page, we didn't run them through like a home page or a product page. We ran them through a listicle. And a listicle gives 6 reasons why XYZ person should buy this. We ran through all 6 reasons, so we created a really good argument as to why they should buy. And then it led them to a sales page where they can't even look at the About Us or whatever. But the sales page was the thing that answered all of those questions. Will this ship fast? Who has bought it? Okay, how many people has bought it? And man, we've ran like thousands and thousands of tests just on this one page. I mean, that page alone has probably done, you know, $30, $40 million.
Incredible, incredible. And it started with finding like, what is the real reason somebody's buying this?
Exactly.
Because you can have an assumption of why somebody buys something, but until you verify it, you can't amplify it.
100%.
Right? So then my man Rich over here, he is Etsy. He works with a lot of different graphic designers to like actually put their products on marketplaces. How does the design operate within a marketplace like that? So like what advice do you have people that are designing for apparel? How should they think about their design to hit certain markets?
Yeah, so we teach a lot of Etsy and Amazon, and we work with a lot of failed brands, like meaning, you know, they had a cool idea, they had a cool concept, and then they put in all this extra energy and put it to market, and you know what happens, right? So, you know, we like to teach them like more about product research so that they can actually prove in their design, their product first, and then once they get to put their product to market, then they go into that whole listing template. They go through the questions, the objections, and actually have the customer actually convert. But I think a lot of times most people that we see are people who have brands and then they had like a lot of failed concepts, but I think they were so passionate about it, they kind of forgot the technical side of seeing if like this is a product that my audience actually wants. Instead, their audience is their friends and family, ask them, is this a cool design? And you know, what are they gonna say? They're gonna say it's cool, but you know, they're really not, they're buyers. They're not the person who's actually buying it. So we teach a lot of proven like product research methods so that they actually put it to market, and their design is based off of something that's working, and it's not something that's just that they're emotionally attached to, and then that helps them regain their confidence so that eventually over time they can come back and redesign things with the audience in mind.
Incredible. So is there a certain framework or state of, like, you know, he had the trifecta, is there a certain framework that you take brands through where you're like, if every brand owner thought about this first before they even touch Kittle or Photoshop, what are some of the things that you recommend people go to before they start designing for a new market?
I mean, there's lots of different softwares, just like hundreds of thousands. Like, you know, if you're going on Amazon, you can use AMZ Scout, Jungle Scout, whatever it may be. You're going on Etsy, you're going to use like Everbee, Allura, Shopify, Shop Hunter. There's thousands of different products, but I think for most brand owners, especially from the starting point, they're just so in love with their idea, and it's hard for them to take in advice without like getting emotional about it. So, you know, at a certain point in time, just look at what your audience wants, look at what your customer wants, and then eventually over time you can throw your own seasoning on it.
Incredible. That's great advice. I think a lot of people really do stick true to their heart. And if you think about the very first business you start, I know I was so passionate about the concept that even though people were saying you should make it for this market, I was like, no, my market is this. But those people were only willing to pay, you know, overseas manufacturing prices, not U.S. manufacturing prices, right? So a lot of the times you have to pivot. You got to be good at pivoting. One of the things that you guys mentioned was about, you know, like problem solution, how do you speak to them, right? So like in content, it's called like a hook, right? So like it's a hook in content. So organic content, yesterday we were going through a couple things. When it comes to organic content, you're also looking for what is the problem that your video is trying to solve, right? And the better that you can hook that problem to that audience, you can get those organic views, right? Because paid media, as you guys know, is like, you got to pay to perform, and it's more predictable. Where organic content isn't as predictable, but there are ways to be a little bit more predictable than the rest, right? And I think it really begins with that problem solution. So one of the questions I have for you guys, when it comes to paid ads, somebody that's like maybe about to hit that Facebook, created their account on Meta, they connected their Shopify pixel, and now they want to run their first creative. What is some advice that you would give a brand owner? Like, don't do this, maybe try this first?
Ooh, all right, for brand owners specifically, I know most, don't try to make cool, photos of like someone who just looks good. You know, a lot of people judge New York Fashion Week, a lot of people judge, Paris Fashion Week, that, oh, why do they look so weird? Why do they look like this? And sometimes the pretty is not what sells. It's like the interesting, because remember, it needs to be a hook. So we like to think of AIDA, so attention, interest, desire, action. So like what's gonna stop there? If you've ever been in a mall kiosk, right, there's thousands and thousands of people going through there, and someone hands you a little like card, you're like, no, I don't wanna see that. That is literally a Facebook ad. So like, what is it that makes them stop and say, whoa, like that guy has like, he's kind of weird, or he's
got
like
blue hair.
Yeah, he's got blue, or he's albino, or he's so cool, tall, lanky, whatever, and it's nothing on those, but it's just like, get someone that looks really interesting, and sometimes that can even help you out, because pretty is oftentimes more expensive, and if you get someone that is like, oh, they have a very interesting look to them, they reflect whatever the ideal customer would want this to be, then like, okay, there's your talent. Another thing is just get social proof. A lot of guys just try to bet on one creator or bet on like one set of person, but sometimes when you see an ad with like thousands of people, just like clip after clip after clip of saying, wow, this shirt feels so good, or oh my gosh, this puff print or whatever is like so sick, or unboxing it and they're like so happy, sometimes that's like oh, I want to be part of that, like, oh, they're onto something. So get someone interesting. Sometimes don't try to bet too much on one person, bet on like a lot of smaller micro creators just getting in on it. So
That's an incredible piece of advice, because I think it's also an underserved area, right? I think a lot of people, like you said, want to bet on like key creators and maybe pay them a couple $100 to model their clothes, whereas if you were to get that guy that looked interesting, that make that scroll stop. And I think those are some of the best ads I've run into, where like the guy is like overdressed just really randomly, and I actually end up watching at least 3 or 4 seconds, which means that it made it for a great ad. And I'm like, what is this guy talking about? So sometimes the weird works, right? So Rich, when it comes to design, do you have certain things that work in a similar way? So if somebody's designing something, should they just try to be like the next fear of God, or should they think about it outside the box?
Well, I have like a lot of failed brands, and then we put them in the marketplaces. So, their passion is completely out the window. So I really don't care if they want to grow their brand name or not. We're just working on designs, like, how he said earlier. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're just doing things that already works. And I think it just helps them with their confidence. Like, their confidence levels boost to a whole nother level, especially when they haven't seen that first sale yet, seen that first $1,000 a month to like 10 grand to 100 grand. Like, once they see that, even if it's off of something that had nothing to do with their brand, they're like, I do have some kind of understanding of e-com, because then they understand, like you said, all the objections, the questions. You have to have someone get to your page, and you have to be able to answer all the questions before a customer even asks. And they're not going to reach out to you to ask that one thing, like, how's this fit? If they see it, cool. If they don't, they're going to be more likely to bounce, right? So, just getting that confidence up, and, their designs is going to be based off of something that's they're not really reinventing anything.
Incredible, that's awesome. And a lot of times, even, obviously we've been diving into like the ads and the reason why things pop off. On the organic content side, I know we were talking about it yesterday, and it's really about understanding who's going to be watching that video, right? So like, if you're making organic content, you're really trying to think about, okay, who's the guy or girl that's going to be watching this video? From that, you think about, okay, what time are they going to potentially, like, when should I post it, right? So posting time is also important because it's organic, right? If you're paid, you could boost it at night, boost it in the morning, it optimizes on Meta, right? But when you're posting organic, you got to think about, like, when is the window that people are up and awake? So for your key avatar, right? So for example, on my channel, I don't know if you found this about yours or not, Rich, but I did a deep dive, and and I was essentially looking at like, YouTube gives you some analytics and it says, this is your best posting window, your most active viewers, right? But just because it says it's between 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. doesn't actually mean that they're willing to watch a video of yours, right? So like if you're putting out educational content and they're waking up at 6 to go to work, get breakfast, maybe they want to laugh. They want to watch comedy in the morning. They want to like entertain, wake their brain up, maybe a little bit of the news, right? They're not in the state of mind to want to be educated. So just because they're active at that time doesn't necessarily mean that it's the right time to post. Versus if you get in the mind of your audience and then you understand, okay, well, my audience is usually watching educational content around lunch. So I should probably launch my window is more around lunchtime, right? In a certain time frame in there, I got to test in between. And you're going to see that like organically your views start to take off because you're posting it at the right times for the right platform, right? Because then it's also platform specific. So if you're on Instagram versus YouTube, like Instagram may be a closer to 9 to 11 for educational content versus 11 to 1 for lunch, right? So it's like different little nuances when you're creating content. It's all about figuring out, okay, who is my audience? Who is watching this video? What time do they actually want to watch this content? And then you build your strategy around that. And then based on that, you're also looking for content ideas, right? So the more you understand your key audience member, the better the ideas become, right? So like I recently had like an AI strategy like challenge, right? Like, hey, can we do this in 7 days? Like that was one I just wanted to test. And I tested it because like based on comments and like analytics, people are like, obviously they're watching AI content. They like some of my other videos about like designing products. I'm like, why don't I merge AI and design and see what happens? And we got a lot more feedback on that. So now we're redoing a second video that's gonna be different, right? But like the more you win organically, the videos that are winning, take a look at why they're winning. So look at your audience retention graph, like what kept their interest, where did they drop off, what do the comments say, and then double down on what they want more of. So when it comes to, obviously that's on the organic side, what are some of the metrics you guys see within the paid ad side that tell you, hey, let's do another version of this, or let's double down on this, let's put more money into this?
Yeah, I think on the paid ad side, it's so weird because we've been so heavy on paid ads that we just think organic is such a far-fetched thing. But now that you're kind of talking about it, it's actually so close.
Very
because
similar.
Our first 3 seconds, so we create this custom metric, we call it thumb stop rate. So for videos, it's the 3-second view impression divided by the amount, so 3-second views divided by the amount of impressions you have. So that says, okay, someone's scrolling and doom scrolling, whatever, all right, they watch this video for 3 seconds. So we look at that based off of the baseline across the other ads that we want to compare it to. So ideally, we want it to be about 30%, but if the baseline is 30 and we see ads that have a 40, 50, 60% thumb stop rate, we're like, oh, okay, this is a great hook. Then we watch rate or watch time, So it's like, oh, this is 8 seconds, this is 12 seconds, this is 13 seconds. Then we try to map out at what part did they start dropping off? Because we also see those same things with the graph. So we're like, okay, you know what's so weird? They started dropping off here. That's because we started introducing the product. Was that because they got sold and they don't want to, go in there, or was that because they got sold on it and they started clicking on the landing page and that's why they dropped off? So like then we'll start kind of asking those, same types of questions. But so we have our thumb stop rate, we have our watch rate, and then we also look at outbound click-through rate, and that pretty much just measures from when they saw the ad, did they actually exit the platform? Because in paid ads, it's all about the funnel, So you go from an impression on someone's story to someone on your sales page or listicle. Then you actually have if you have your pre-sale page like a listicle, then you have a sales page, then you go into checkout. And then from there, then you purchase, and then who knows what the other rest of the journeys is. So we look at outbound click-through rate. So it's kind of very similar, but we like to view creatives also as a funnel from the attention all the way to the action.
It's incredible that you mentioned that, because when it comes to platforms like social media, they're actually watching for those same metrics, but the thing they don't want you to do is to take them off platform, right? So then it becomes a different strategy too. Like if you want somebody to come off platform, you have to wait till like the end to take them out. because then at least you got the most engaged viewers that are actually interested versus the people that are just poking around, right? Because if you bring somebody that's just poking around off the platform, then it's going to penalize your video and it's not going to grow as much. So like a lot of your calls to actions are usually have to be at the end of the offer on an organic, but on a paid, you want to make sure it's really clear and the reason why they're staying to watch, right? So it's like kind of flipped. It's kind of cool to see that the paid and the organic is also like pretty similar. So then, obviously, we've been really diving into a lot of the mechanics and the reasons why, organic content versus paid content, best practices, design, and what you should look at for product. Now, I think one of the most underserved parts in entrepreneurship and making a brand is really the thought process and the growth that has to come with it, right? So what are some advice you may have for new brand owners? I mean, you have an incredible sales background, so like I think you practice it every day. Like, how do I get better at speaking? How do I get better at doing what's uncomfortable? What are some advice that if you were to give your 18-year-old self today that you would want to apply or want to share with those to like, hey, start doing this sooner than later?
Yeah. What specifically do you mean, like to get better at, say, sales?
Yeah, but either like through their business, to get better in entrepreneurship, get better in the sales methodology, whatever you feel has been the biggest payoff for your life.
Totally. And I think this goes along with what we were just talking about, which is I was going to add, we talked a little bit about demographics, and that's very salesy, is you talk to different demographics differently. And then what we didn't touch on, which we kind of touched on, but not really, is psychographics, which is, to put a word to kind of what we're saying, is the emotional state of the person that we're trying to go after. So with the dermaplaning device, that's an emotional, I want to feel pretty. That's the kind of the psychographic we're going after. The demographic just happens to be women, typically between 40 and 60, married or not. And that's the demographic, but the psychographic is the emotion. And so when you have sales and when you're talking to people, I think it's a beautiful thing to understand. When somebody's yelling at you, it's because they feel misunderstood, they're upset. When a customer comes at you with a problem, they feel like they got cheated, there's a miscommunication. So it's really, understanding their psychographics, their emotional state, the reason behind their need, their pain point. And that's what a lot of like paid ads, where we find a lot of success, is because you're trading money is an asset of your value. So I'm saying I'm trading my $20, which is what I have that's holding my value, for something that's going to give me value in return, right? Which is a little different than organic. I'd love to get kind of your opinion on that too. So when we're doing that, we're very, very specific on the exact deliverable that they're getting for their pain point, if that makes sense.
That transformation that they're going to receive. Like they're at this point, and by the end of their purchase, you want them to feel this point, right? So they have that transformation in real time. And when it comes to organic content, it's pretty similar. Like, you're always asking yourself, after somebody's done watching this video, how do they feel and what type of action are they taking, right? So it becomes like, okay, on this piece of content, like the AI example, it became like, okay, at the end of this video, we want to let people know that, hey, AI is here as a tool to serve you, but in reality, it's probably not going to make you much money unless you can attack it creatively, right? AI isn't a tool that can solve your problem and make you money. You still got to have the understanding of it, right? Yeah. So when coming up with that video, you kind of have those two different options. You're like, okay, if it hits it out the park and AI just manages to do something incredible, then that's an awesome transformation. But even if it fails, it's still a good story that people will take away. Like, you know what? I knew that AI wasn't good at designing, right? Because the comment that I got was, AI isn't design, they're taking graphic designers' jobs. F AI, right? So I was like, you know what? Let's put it through AI. And then everybody's like, see, I told you, right? So it elicits that reaction, and it's a win at the end, right? Because they like, okay, I know that AI won't take my graphic design career just yet, but at the same time, I got a lot of value with how I can use it. Yeah. So you're always thinking about the transformation in organic content as well. Yeah. For you, what is something that, like, through your entrepreneur journey or through business, you have an incredible background when it comes to advertising, paid ads, media buying. What is one thing, a switch or something you had to hit in your life in order to be like, you know what, this is where I'm going in and this is where I can thrive?
I think specifically with business and entrepreneurship, you don't get paid based off of how hard you work. So you can go do, you can start doing web design for them, you can start doing photos for them, you can go, tie their laces for them, you can just work an insane amount of hours. But the truth of it all is sometimes they just don't care how hard you work. and you get paid in direct proportion to the value you bring. And that is like, once I kind of came into that, I'm like, whoa, so they're not buying my, social media marketing service. They're buying more customers. They're not buying, email and SMS. They're buying, returning revenue. So that was kind of like the biggest thing that I kind of just realized, was the fact that, oh wow, they don't care how hard I work. They just care about the money I'm going to bring them. So,
that's powerful.
Yeah.
That's super powerful to learn in business, especially the ones like the people that are just getting started. Sometimes they're like, I put so much time into this, but what did you actually do?
no, I mean,
at the end of it?
I forgot where I heard this, but like, you can work so hard to make, like, let's say that those Yeezys cost $200, right? I forgot where I heard this, but like this guy says, like, those Yeezys cost $200, right? But you can work so hard to get it. You can go landscaping, you can go flip shoes, you can go do whatever. But if you go to finish line and you don't have $200, you can't get them. So like that's exactly how it is. Like, no, it doesn't matter how hard you work. Do you have it or do you not? And I think that's like the whole value proposition of, especially what he said. It's just like, I'm trading my time or I'm trading my dollars to buy what your end goal is. But if you can just really reel that in, like, so many things just change.
Incredible, man. I love that. I love that piece of advice. Rich, what do you got to share, man? You've been an entrepreneur through building your own brand back in the day. I know you had honors, you had some incredible designs. A lot of them went viral, crazy. What are some advice or tips that you have that would help entrepreneurs kind of turn that switch in their brain?
I guess I would say probably dealing with like the uncomfortable. Like when I got into the educational space, when I started creating content in like 2019, like I'm a complete introvert. Like I suck at talking to the camera. If I look at it right now, like it's gonna sound horrible. But like when I started selling my offer, I started doing, I had paid ads and I had my organic content. And eventually I realized, telling your story, it was two different things. If you're paying someone to be there, they might love you a little bit, but if they want to be there, like via organically, then they might love you a little more. So, it made things easier on that end. So just like dealing with the uncomfortable and putting yourself in positions that you probably didn't want to be. And then obviously you get better at things, right? So, as I got better at that, it became a lot easier to, create more content, learn more about ads, and then repositioning my offers so that it's more for my actual audience. Because like, most people who, if you have an educational offer, there's thousands of people with like the same offer. Everyone's offer probably worse, but who delivers it the same in a way that, where you came from, if you was in the same seat that person was. Like me personally, I was a stay-at-home dad, my oldest son has autism, he has special needs. So, my back's up against the wall and I just had to find a way to make it out. So, a lot of my successful students end up being stay-at-home moms, stay-at-home dads. Like my most recent one, she's a stay-at-home mom of 5, and she was, she was recently divorced, and then all of a sudden, like she made $100,000 within a few months. So, it's just positioning yourself and being able to tell your story, but making people want to be there, not just forcing people to be there.
That's incredible, man. I love that advice. Like you really do connect with the people that you're going to do business with. And like I heard it through this event, Lori mentioned it, like people like to do business with people, right? And I've always heard that as well. One of my pieces of advice I would have wished I learned earlier is that, coming from Mexican parents that came here in the 80s and, work construction, my mom worked in a factory, like goals weren't that high other than just go to school, right? Go to school, get an education, maybe be a doctor. And I was a middle child, so I always rebelled against all the cultural norms, right? So then the thing I wished I would have learned earlier is because we grow up in certain environments, we can't control the environment that we grow up in, right? So some people grow up in better environments. Like my kids are growing up in a way better environment, and his kids are growing up in a way different environment than how we grew up. So you can't control where somebody grows up, and you can't fault anybody for those reasons. The only thing that you can really focus on is changing your reality today, right? And if I would have learned that earlier and like really talk to myself and listen to what I was saying to myself when I was 18, 17, 18, 19, 20, right? That voice in your head is honestly the thing holding you back, right? So the doubt that creeps in is all based on the doubt that you've had throughout your entire childhood. Don't do this, you're gonna get shot. Don't, that dog's gonna bite you, right? Oh, that dog did bite you. Like, there's so many things that are holding you back to survive. And I think a lot of times when people are starting something, they're in survival mode, so they're always thinking about why it's gonna fail. And the more that you're cognizant about the conversations in your head, the faster you can start switching your reality and actually start taking advice from people that are out there that are looking to assist and help you go to that next level. Because if you're always closed off, you'll never see the opportunities right in front of you. All right, you guys, so we had an incredible time here at Co-Create as well as through this conversation. If you guys found any value, make sure you check out the links in the description that we're gonna include in the video down below. John, where can they find you guys? John and Josh, where can you guys be found and located?
Look us up on LinkedIn, John Klein, Josh Delbondo. Check us out on delbondo.com. If you want any marketing advice, check out the $100 Million Podcast, and we'll see you there.
Rich, where can they find you?
On Instagram is rich_KHUN, or on YouTube is Hustle Ninjas.
Guys, if you found any value in this, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now and watch the latest video that we're gonna link right here.